have mustard. Okay. Shinrikyo I mentioned. The subway attack you're probably familiar with. That was not their first sarin attack. Okay. Their first attack was actually in Matsumoto the year before. They wanted to kill some judges that were hearing a case against some of their cult members. So they took a truck, refrigeration truck, they filled it with sarin and developed a way to pump it out, tried to attack the building that these judges were supposedly in. They killed 7, they injured 300. They missed the judges, so they weren't there that day. The subway attack obviously was on a grander scale. They took the sarin, they put it in balloons, put the balloons in paper bags, took them into the subway. When they hit a stop, they punctured the bags with an umbrella. They got the hell out of Dodge as quick as they could. The sarin spread out. Sarin, as you know, volatilizes, and they killed 12. They exposed another 1,000 people to the sarin with symptoms. And then in addition to those people, another 5,000 who were worried that they were exposed sought care as well. Of particular note, 10% of the first responders showed signs of sarin toxicity. Why? What do you see in that picture? Let me change that. What don't you see in that picture? Any kind of protection, okay? And perhaps not a big surprise in 1995. Maybe they didn't think about this that much. But obviously, personal protection is key in all of these events. And 10% of the first responders showed signs of sarin toxicity, okay? 25% of the hospital workers who treated these casualties showed signs of sarin toxicity. So I worry actually a lot more about hospitals than I do about you all, because we're terrible about this. You know, somebody shows up sick, you know, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea from their sarin exposure. What are we going to do when they show up? Come on in. We're here to help you. Most of us are going to get sick. We don't think this way. So, big problem. Chemical attacks, not isolated. These are chemical attacks over the world in the last 5 years. And since 2015, as you're well aware, chemical attacks have increased in frequency. Most recently, yesterday, again in Syria, okay, with large numbers of injured and killed. So, big problem. Here's the groups we're going to talk about: nerve agents, vesicants, industrial chemicals, and the riot control agents. Of that list, obviously, the top 3 are the most concerning. Riot control agents, not that big a deal, but the top 3, much more concerning for us, okay? The thing you have to know about all of the chemical agents is how long do they hang around once they've been released? Because obviously that's a big threat to you guys, since you are scene responders. How long is it going to be there? A lot depends on how volatile the agent is, how quickly it converts from a liquid to a gas, and how quickly it'll be dispersed. Okay? That depends on temperature, depends on wind, and it depends what it's been spread on, whether or not something absorbs the material or not. Okay? This slide shows you the persistence of various chemical agents based on temperature. Okay? If you look at the bottom half of the slide, okay, and look at sarin in particular, sarin on a warm day hangs around for about 30 minutes. Converts to a gas, it disperses quickly as the wind blows, okay? If you look at VX on that same bottom slide, bottom half, okay, VX is an oily substance. It hangs around longer. So on a warm day, it's going to hang around for about 3 days. Has obvious implications, you know, for cleanup and that sort of thing. If you take those same 2 chemicals and drop the temperature, make it a day that's 14 degrees instead of 60 degrees, okay? Sarin now hangs around for 8 hours instead of the 30 minutes. VX hangs around for a little over a week instead of just 3 days, okay? Again, huge implications for the cleanup and exposure of people at that site. Okay. So let's talk about the nerve agents. The nerve agents. They're the most toxic of the man-made chemical agents. Okay. Tabin, sarin, soman, cyclosarin, VX, and Novichok. Okay. Novichok is perhaps the one you've heard about recently in the news, based on the attack in Britain on those two Russians, the father and the daughter. Okay. The letters that you see, the GA, the GB, the GD, okay, those are the NATO terminology for these agents. All of them will penetrate through intact skin. All of them can penetrate through the eyes, through mucous membranes, through the lungs. How do we make the diagnosis? We make the diagnosis clinically. What does the patient look like when we see them? Okay. Yes, we can confirm it in the laboratory. We do a special test called a red blood cell cholinesterase activity. That test generally will take 2 days to get back. Okay. Ain't a big help. So, clinical evaluation. Okay. Tabin, sarin, soman, cyclosarin. You'll notice all of the NATO letters begin with the letter G. It's because all of these agents originated in Germany. Okay. They were originally developed as insecticides. They realized they were very effective in killing people. Okay. So they converted them as human nerve agents. All of these are easily volatile, so they will quickly convert from a liquid to a gas and disperse. VX, developed in Britain. Oily substance, as I said, hangs around a long time. And then the Novichok agents, these are Russian or Soviet originally, okay? These we've only heard about more in the last month since that attack in Britain. Novichok is Russian for newcomer agents. They developed roughly 160 of these, of which they thought 5 were particularly effective. They're the ones that are listed there. A232 is the most effective. They're designed specifically for a couple reasons. Number one is all the other nerve agents fall under the International Chemical Weapons Treaty, which bans their use. The Novichok agents don't fall under that treaty. Okay. They are not easily detectable. Nice if you want to use it. Okay. They are designed to defeat the NATO chemical protective gear, and they're designed to be safe to handle. Okay. Now, how are they safe to handle? Because they're developed as a binary agent, which means we take 2 safe chemicals, we mix them together, that's when we get the active nerve agent. Okay. It gets dispersed as a powder. It is 5 to 10 times more lethal than VX. And up until about a month ago, we thought VX was the most lethal. Novichok's worse. Denser than air, so it collects in low-lying areas, and probably has long-lasting effects, even if you survive the attack. This is normal nerve function. Okay, an impulse comes down, it releases a chemical called acetylcholine. The acetylcholine crosses the synaptic gap and then activates either the nerve or the organ on the other side. Okay. Then we release another chemical called acetylcholinesterase. The acetylcholinesterase, like the little Pac-Man here in this thing, inactivates the acetylcholine so it stops the stimulus. Okay. Now, if we throw nerve agent into the mix, we get the same nerve stimulus, the same acetylcholine, but the nerve agent, those little purple squares, inactivate the acetylcholinesterase. So now the acetylcholine hangs around and we get continued stimulation of the target organ. So essentially, it's a nervous system overload of target organs, sweat glands, muscles, GI tract, the bladder, okay, the brain. All of them are essentially getting overstimulated, okay? Now, cholinergic receptors, there's 2 types, muscarinic and nicotinic. And the only importance to this is our treatment is targeted at these receptors. We have one medication that works for the muscarinic site. We have one medication that works on the nicotinic site, okay? And we'll talk more about that. What are the effects? Well, the muscarinic effects, we use an acronym called dumbbells, okay? And it's diarrhea, urination, meiosis. What's meiosis? No, close, but no cigar. That's jaundice, close, but no cigar.
But not like almost like blood related.
Nope. Meiosis, constricted pupils. Okay? That's what meiosis is, constricted pupils. Bradycardia, bronchorrhea, so we get a lot of secretions in the airway, okay, and the bronchi. Bronchospasm, that makes it look like asthma. Vomiting, tearing, salivation, secretions everywhere, and sweating, okay. You may have also heard about the sludge syndrome. This is the same thing, okay. And then the nicotinic receptors are the days of the week. Mydriasis. What's mydriasis? That's dilation of the pupils. So meiosis is constricted pupils. Mydriasis is dilated pupils. Okay. So depending whether the muscarinic receptors or the nicotinic receptors are more active, you could see one or the other. Okay. If muscarinic receptors are active, you saw bradycardia. If the nicotinic receptors are active, we see tachycardia. Weakness, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and muscle fasciculations, muscle twitching, okay? There's sludge, salivation, lacrimation, tearing, urination, defecation, GI distress, and vomiting, okay? There's our secretions everywhere you can think of, increased secretions. Saliva, tears, runny nose,